Thank you, thank you. We may be seated. Premier of the Northern Cape, Mayor Sylvia Lucas, Minister of Arts and Culture, Ubabu Nati Mtetwa, Minister of Transport, Medipuo Peters, Deputy Minister of Arts and Culture, Bo Joyce Mabudapasi, MEC of Arts and Culture in the province and Code Program Director, Umamu Kikaba, MECs who are here, Ubabum Somi, councillors, traditional leaders, members of the diplomatic corps, our living human treasures who are here, distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen. Dumelang. Dimasiari. You don't know your vendor today. When we say Dimasiari, that's a vendor. You say Abu De. Dimasiari. Ah, that's good. Abshin. That is Shangal now. When we say Abshin, you say Ahe. Abshin. Goeie môre, is it nou middag? Amper middag. Amper middag. Goeie môre. Colleagues, it's a joy and a pleasure to be here once again in the Northern Cape, but this time around to come and celebrate our National Heritage Day. This is an important day in the calendar of our nation. It's become even more important as we are forging to unite our people, to engender social cohesion, and to build our nation. We are gathered in the land of the legendary Kgosi Galeshewe to celebrate this Heritage Day under the theme Celebrating Human Treasures by asserting our African identity. We hold Kgosi Galeshewe dear in our hearts for leading the Batlaping, the people of this region, against colonial subjugation and injustice. We pay tribute to a courageous, visionary leader, Kgosi Galeshewe. His name evokes the historic deeds of the kings and queens and chiefs who fought hard to safeguard our birthright as the people of this land. His name evokes the spirit of kings and leaders such as Hintsa, Sikukuni, Ngungunyani, Techwayo, Makado, and Matantisi, amongst many others who fought against the colonialists and oppressors. They inspired generations of liberation stalwarts like Dr. Abdullah Abduraram, Sol Plaatje, Nelson Mandela, Dr. Yusuf Dadu, Bram Fischer, Helen Joseph, Ruth Mompati, Dorothy Nyembe, Walter Sisulu, Albertina Sisulu, Joe Slovo, Chris Hani, and many others. They bestowed upon us a rich heritage that defines our nationhood, that defines our values and our aspirations as a people. We are enjoined by the National Development Plan to continue to build a new united South African nation that pays allegiance only to the cries and the dreams of the people of Africa. Explaining our identity as a people and as a nation, the National Development Plan says, who are we? It asks. And it says we are Africans. We are an African country. We are part of our multinational region. We are an essential part of our continent. Being Africans, we are acutely aware of the wider world, deeply implicated in our past and present. That wider world carries some of our inheritance. In parentheses, I would say that wider world carries our genes. The wider world gene pool originated in our continent. We have learned a great deal from our complex past, adding continuously to our experience of being Africans. We create rather than eliminate. We value things that we have created because value arises from improving through creativity that which we have inherited. Our connectedness across time and distance is the central principle of our nationhood. Heritage Day, colleagues, therefore, gives us an opportunity to reflect on our own history as Africans, as South Africans. It gives us time to reflect on our cultural heritage, on our traditions, on our rituals, and on our languages. This day also reminds us of the contribution that this continent of ours has made to humanity. For it was this, our continent, that is the cradle of mankind. And one could say that if modern civilization and the technological advances that have been made by this modern civilization are to be judged as the epitome of human achievement, then we can say that this, our continent, contributed immensely to this achievement, because the markers of civilization on a number of issues originated from this continent. This day obliges us to pay attention to the values upon which we seek to build a united and prosperous nation. Values of democracy, of unity, of non-racialism, of non-sexism, values that are going to enable us to build a democratic society. This day also reminds us that we are all Africans, not just individuals and groups who happen to occupy the same geographical space, it must also remind us that from a history of racial division and a history of social inclusion, we need to work tirelessly to forge a common future founded on equality, compassion, social justice, as well as economic justice. On this day, we also celebrate the makings of our nation. Today, our people in KwaZulu-Natal are celebrating 200 years of the forging together of the Zulu nation, our Zulu nation. And today we join our compatriots who are meeting together in KwaZulu-Natal to celebrate this outstanding achievement. We join them together and we are linked with them, we are interconnected. Recalling the havoc that was wrought on communities by our brutal past, we must remember that past, but as we remember that past, we must refuse to be silent when that past is destroyed. We must refuse to be silent when the rights of our people are undermined. Heritage Day must also serve as a reminder of the various important components of what heritage is all about. Heritage is about the value system. Heritage is about tradition. Heritage is about knowledge. Heritage is about education. Heritage is about democracy. And heritage is also about human rights. Our forebears observed and respected all these important components of what heritage is about. Heritage Day must also serve as a reminder that education is not only Africa's proud heritage, but it remains the most important and potent asset in the hands of our people to restore our dignity. We must cherish the opportunity to learn. We must jealously guard the instruments of learning. Our forebears cherished the value of learning, and they protected and preserved the assets that gave them knowledge. They never sought to destroy their knowledge systems, and they never sought to destroy the sources of their knowledge. And it is against this backdrop that we should all say today that destroying the assets that give us knowledge and education is acting against the legacy of our forebears. Burning books, burning schools, burning lecture halls is an assault on our collective being and the foundations of our society and the foundations of our heritage. Just as we proclaim what we treasure as a nation, we must also condemn social conduct that is akin to spitting on the graves of those who built the civilizations of the great Zimbabwe, Mapungubwe, Timbuktu, and many others. Our heritage as Africans, our heritage as a continent. We must condemn attitudes, practices, and institutions that perpetuate social exclusion. We will attain social cohesion and prosperity when the fruits of our democracy are equally shared with those who are today trapped in a cycle of poverty. We will achieve social cohesion when our words, when our teachings and conduct cease to insult and dehumanize those who do not have the same skin color or hair texture as ours. When we refuse to offer refuge to bigots who preach hatred against vulnerable communities, we will say we are making progress in building a cohesive society free from the chains of prejudice. In this South Africa of our dreams, there must be no tolerance for practices of sexism, tribalism, and racial prejudice. These must forever remain obliterated from the face of our country. Our 2016 Heritage Day theme calls on us to assert our inclusive African identity by paying tribute to South Africa's living human treasures. Living human treasures are custodians of indigenous knowledge systems. They are our living legends who possess rare insight into our culture, our oral history, and past lived experiences. These legends are an irreplaceable asset because of their stellar contribution to cultural heritage, social cohesion, and nation building. They represent specialist knowledge and information which has been sustained over generations through memory and oral tradition. This intangible heritage provides communities with a sense of identity and a sense of belonging. South Africa's interest in recognizing and safeguarding this living heritage is part of our nation's aspirations to guarantee the full potential of its diverse and yet shared future. We applaud the Department of Arts and Culture for embarking on a journey to develop our national inventory, to register and to recognize our living human treasures. The United Nations, having come up with this concept of living human treasures, we are grateful that our Department of Arts and Culture has taken it up with a great deal of enthusiasm and are forging ahead with it. The department provides assistance to our human treasures so that they can share their rare knowledge with all of us, but especially with our young people. We urge communities to assist government in identifying many more deserving individuals who are the custodians of indigenous knowledge in our country. Please allow me to thank some of the living human treasures that are here with us today. And these include Umamu Esther Mahlangu, Ngarezani Nechirembe, Mlawu Chacheka, Simon Masilo, Kampeni Mona, Katrina Esau, Katrina Ali, Credo Mutwa, and Ubabu Welcome Somi. Ubabu Welcome Somi was standing here with us, and he's looking as youthful as he has always looked. Very handsome, fit, slim, and clever. Very, very clever and intelligent. As South Africans, we consider ourselves fortunate that we have renowned elders like Ubabu Credo Vusamazulu Mutwa. He is an indestructible repository of ancient African wisdom. We applaud him for his consistent fight against ignorance of African languages and cultures. He has fought against prejudice and demonization of African spirituality and African customs. Africa's diverse and rich intangible heritage is a living fountain. All should have an opportunity to drink from its revitalizing waters. We owe it to our youth to ensure that they are nurtured in the ancient wisdom that has been passed from generation to generation. This knowledge must be at the center of school and university curricula. It is about time that what our children are taught at school should not revolve and concentrate on the culture of the British Empire, should not revolve and concentrate on the culture of the French Empire. It should revolve and be centered around African traditions, African cultures, and our African heritage. Our contemporary challenges of moral degeneration and extreme inequality can be addressed by paying attention to the philosophy, the ethics, and values that are espoused by our living human treasures. Colonialism sought to annihilate Africans from their identity, sought to alienate Africans from their identity and cultural universe. Colonial education and later apartheid education aimed to uproot and pacify Africans as they were dispossessed of their land. As a governor of the Cape in the 19th century, Sir George Grey explained his colonial policy. He said, "We should try and make them as part of ourselves, with a common faith and common interests. They must become useful servants. They must become consumers of our goods, contributors to our revenue. At the same time, unremitting efforts should be made to raise the kephas in Christianity and civilization by the establishment among them and beyond our boundary of missions connected with industrial schools by employing them on public works and by other similar means." This was the policy that they had in mind, to completely subjugate us and to make us their servants forever and in a day. The colonial classroom was meant to dehumanize and malign much of what was African in us. Those found speaking an African language at school would become an object of ridicule, humiliation, and violence. You still find aspects of this in some of our schools today. When African young girls start speaking in their own indigenous languages, they are punished. They are told not to speak those languages. They must speak in English or just Afrikaans. This is what we must fight against. Citing Frantz Fanon, Steve Biko said, "The colonialists were not satisfied merely with holding a people in their grip and emptying the native's brain of all form and content. They turned to the past of the oppressed people and distorted, disfigured, and destroyed it. No longer was reference made to African culture, it became barbarism. Africa was the dark continent. Religious practices and customs were referred to as superstition. When they saw us practicing our customs, they said, Singabatagati, we are witches." The history of African society was reduced to tribal battles and intestine wars. No wonder the African child learns to hate his heritage in his days at school. This is what Steve Biko said. But as the lives and experience of our living legends reveal, our people resisted this form of dehumanization. They strove to ensure that the ethics and philosophy of Ubuntu survived and flourished. Now, as we strive together, black and white, in this, our South Africa, to build a new, united society, the spirit of Ubuntu needs to permeate everything that we do. If we tolerate extreme inequality, high level of joblessness, stealing from the poor, and conspicuous consumption in a sea of poverty, we have no prospect of flourishing as a nation. Ubuntu teaches us that we can only affirm our own humanity by recognizing the humanity of others. Because Ubuntu is about, I am who I am because you are who you are. The seeds of our economic renaissance will be rooted in a cultural revolution that will rekindle the values of kindness, generosity, selflessness, and magnanimity. By paying closer attention to indigenous knowledge, the traditional ways of mediating conflict, and African restorative justice, we stand a better chance of ending the unacceptably high levels of violence in our society. Because our living human treasures have safeguarded our intangible heritage, we are encouraged to see many young people researching and preserving indigenous knowledge. We are encouraged when we see many of our young people trying to research, trying to find out more and more about their African cultural heritage. This is most encouraging. In his Sesotho Dictionary for Mathematics, researcher and author Zulu Matabo Zulu demonstrates that Africans understood complex mathematical concepts long before the advent of colonialism. To South Africa's human treasures, our nation does not simply respect the many years that you have lived, but we also revere your own achievements. Each one of you have achieved a great deal, and through your work, through your experiences, through your own personal histories, you are continuing to teach us a lot and to bequeath a lot to our nation. You are an irreplaceable force for nation building and social cohesion. And as we celebrate Heritage Day this year, we should reflect on who we are as a people, how we got here, and where we are going. It is a nation that knows its history and its past that will be able to understand its current and present situation. And armed with that, it will then be able to know what the future portends for it. And it will therefore be armed better to navigate its way to the future that it desires. Allow me therefore to conclude with reference once again to the National Development Plan. The plan that we all adopted says, we are a people who have come together and shared an extraordinarily to remake our society. We ply between our cities and our ancestral origins. Others' ancestral origins are beyond our country. Where they go from time to time is a piece of our home too. We discover the country and the world. We live peacefully with neighbors. We have good friends in our societies. We have welcomed people from distant lands who have chosen to live amongst us. We value interdependence and reciprocity. We feel hospitable. We are a community of multiple, overlapping identities. Cosmopolitan in our nationhood, our multiculturalism is a defining element of our identity. We are because we are so many. Our manyness is our strength. We carry it in us throughout our lives. We are the people of South Africa, a people who are deeply immersed and becoming deeply immersed in our identity, in who we are, where we are at the moment, and where we are going. And this is a trait that we have derived from our origins. This is the experience that we have from our history. This is what our forebears have bequeathed us. Our forebears who foresaw this moment, that deriving from their experience and history, we will need to build a new South African nation, and that we will want to cohere as a people and as a society that is becoming democratic on an ongoing basis. South Africans, on this Heritage Day, we pay tribute to our legends, but we also pay tribute to those who have helped us build this nation. Let us forge ahead and continue to build the South African nation from the strong foundation of the values that were bequeathed to us. I thank you. Enjoy the rest of your Heritage Day.